Hello everybody, welcome to another Simutrans video diary. You're looking at London Cannon Street, which is the latest station to receive a full range of services. I've just recently set up all the local services that run from Cannon Street, mainly to southeast London, and you can see all those pottering in and out. Interesting fact, Cannon Street is one of only 3 London station termini, indeed, I think, to have all its platforms above ground. The other 2 are Fenchurch Street, which you should also just about be able to see in shot, and Marylebone. Apologise, I can't really pronounce the name of that station. So you can just about have room for 6 platforms here. Now, as the title for this video shows, the main meat that we'll be talking about today is the timetabling scheduling function in Simutrans. But before we get onto that, quite technical stuff, I thought I'd just show you around the progress that's been made since the last video diary proper. So let's get up our mini-map first of all. Now, lots of the gaps of time have been filled in here. We've gone all the way up the West Anglia main line, which you saw in the last video, to Cambridge. Let's go and have a look at Cambridge. Peterborough, we've gone all the way up to Peterborough on the East Coast Main Line, and that's ready to receive its slow stopping services from London. Equally so is Bedford. And we've got about the same distance all the way around, so Milton Keynes, Reading. I'm very much looking forward to getting a full range of services running into Reading there. It's quite the station. So gradually we're expanding out of London. We've also been putting some services all around the southeast London, as I said. These are the ones that go into Cannon Street, and a few into Victoria. So we're gradually making progress. But as I said, not here just to show you around today, but to talk about something very specific, which is the scheduling function, which is absolutely critical to this map. It wouldn't be worth doing unless this feature existed. Now I should say that this is pretty intricate stuff that you'll probably only really be interested in if you play Simutrans or if you want to create something similar in Simutrans. So those of you just like to see the network operating probably won't find this very interesting. I'll warn you in advance. So let's get our line management window up and have a look at the schedule and how we get to tell the trains to be in the right place at the right time. Okay. So this is the schedule from London Liverpool Street to Colchester Town, a train that goes once an hour. Now we've got the list of stations as you'd expect, but that doesn't suffice to make sure that the train is in the right place at the right time. That requires something different. Now what we don't get is a window that we can just type the timetable in. Sadly, it's much more complex than that, and you might regard this as something of a workaround or a hack in order to get a timetable running in a system which doesn't really allow for it. Now if trains are left to their own devices in Simutrans, they'll simply run from one end of the line to the other and then back again and then back again without any regard for what time it is. They won't stop at the end of the line. They'll just, as soon as they're ready to load, they'll move on again. So in order to get a proper timetable running here, they need to be told how often to run and when they're allowed to leave certain stations. And the way to do this in Simutrans is to basically put a flag on the schedule at certain stations that when the train reaches that station, it needs to wait for a certain time before it leaves. That is, it needs to wait for a certain time on the clock. And on the schedule you can see here, this is every stop with a 400% is basically a timing stop. Right? When it gets to that stop, it has to wait for a certain time before leaving. Everything without that, it can just carry on as normal. So as I said, you need to tell it how often it leaves that stop and exactly what time. Okay. Now, this box here tells the train it needs to leave hourly, and that's, as you can see, it says 12 convoys per month. Now, because a month in Simutrans is not a month at all, but rather an arbitrary grouping of hours, in this case 12 hours, telling the train to leave 12 times per month will cause it to leave hourly. But telling it just to leave hourly will mean that when it gets to that stop, it waits for the top of the hour. It will wait for 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and we don't want that. Okay? We're at Liverpool Street here, and if you look up the timetable, you'll see that the Colchester Town train leaves Liverpool Street at 38 minutes past. Okay? And in this box, you can change that offset so that it waits until 38 minutes past a given hour. Now this is in half-minute increments, which is why you got 76 in the top box there, and that's useful because at certain timing points you do want to be a bit more precise than 4 minutes even. So that's how you get the train to leave the station at a certain time. I should say there's a tutorial for this on the forum if this isn't really clear. But something else to highlight with this particular line is that when it gets out to Colchester town, it doesn't just hang around and wait to come back as the Colchester town train, but rather in between, if we can find Colchester. Okay. Yes. In between, it serves as a shuttle from Colchester town to Colchester, then goes back to Colchester town, and then to Colchester, and then back to London. So it does. And in fact, I think what we can see at the moment is the train waiting at Colchester to go back to Colchester town, and then back round to London. And each of those stations has a timing point, simply because otherwise it'll end up where it's not supposed to be. So it's waiting at Colchester at the moment. It'll wait till 20 past the hour, go back to Colchester town and wait till 35 past the hour, then head back to London after a slight pause at Colchester. So that's a simple case. Okay, but in many cases you can't just say, okay, well we've got a route from London to Colchester town, let's put one train on that route and send it back and forth and back and forth. Okay. Because in London at least platform space is often a premium, you have to have a train arriving from one destination, then going out to a different destination, coming back from that destination, then going back to the first destination, in order to keep the platforms clear, in order to make sure that the trains spend as little time as possible in the limited platform space in London. In some cases that can get quite complex. So let me show you one of the examples of this. In fact, one of the Cannon Street ones should suffice. Right. So this schedule serves as the trains from Cannon Street to Hayes, Dartford and Orpington, but they're all contained in a single schedule. Okay. So the train first goes out of, gets in the middle here, out of Cannon Street and goes to Hayes. When it gets to Hayes, waits for a certain time, then comes back to Cannon Street. Right. But if at that point it was to wait for the next departure to Hayes, that would just be too long. It would clog up the platform for too long. So what we have to do instead is send it out on a different service, and in doing so make sure that the platforms at Cannon Street are not used for too long at a time. Keep the space up. You can already see it's quite busy here, so if we didn't do this, we wouldn't be able to have kind of an efficient use of our rolling stock or an efficient use of our platforms. So when it gets back to Cannon Street, it goes out as a service to Orpington. Okay. And then in this case, there are even 3 services working together. Sometimes it's only 2. And when it gets back to Cannon Street the third time, it goes out as a service to Dartford, okay, via Woolwich, by the looks of it. Okay. And then finally, when it gets back to Cannon Street that third time, it can go back out as a service to Hayes. So that's immensely complex, and it takes quite some looking at the schedules to work out how that's going to go. But what it does allow is kind of an efficient use of the trains and efficient use of the platforms. And it's worth pointing out that that's kind of exactly the sort of thing that happens in real life for the same kinds of reasons. Now, I haven't attempted to simulate exactly how it works in real life. So the exact what are called diagrams that trains go on, simply because it's a little difficult to come by that information. The way that I've tried to work it out is for the most efficient use of trains and platform space. The same thing happens a lot at Waterloo as well. I wonder if I can find something like this. Nope, that's a simple Hampton Court. Let's go into the line dialogue. Yeah, so this route contains the services to Guildford via Cobham, but also I believe the services to Chessington South and indeed Dorking. So again, that's a triple line score there, and this all seems to work quite well. So the hard work in this was just working out which lines should go together. By the time you plug it all into the schedule and tell it to go. It actually works pretty well. Okay, so I think that's more or less all I wanted to say about the scheduling features in Simutrans. It's pretty intricate, and it takes some work to figure out how the timetables should best be drawn up. The happy thing about doing this kind of map is that the timetables already exist. What I'm trying to do here is simulate an off-peak timetable, so if I want to know where a train should be at a certain time, I just look at that timetable and tell it that's where it should be. Okay? Then the hard bit is making sure the track speeds and the train stats are all correct so that it can get there in the adequate time. If you were doing this kind of for your own map, trying to work out your own schedules, then it's a bit harder and you'd require a bit more leeway, I think. Yeah. But I'll post a link to the tutorial for the scheduling feature on the forum, but I thought it'd be interesting to kind of see it in action and see how it works on this map. Okay, that's all for today, and I'll see you next time.